Oh, no, 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 Mrs. Carpenter. Now, you promised me no more sweets unless I know about them.
Oh, I should have known you'd catch me. Now I suppose you're going to take them away.
I'm afraid so.
Oh, please. Preston left them for me. He said today's the... Oh, dear, what day did he say this is?
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day, that's right. How did you know?
This young man's come to visit you, Mrs. Carpenter.
To see me?
Mm-hmm.
Vaughn! Oh, you finally came to see me.
Oh, Mrs. Davidson, I'm sorry. Mr. Carpenter's busy. I'm afraid he can't see you.
Is that right? Well, maybe if you tell him I have something he's been wanting back for the museum.
The museum? This is not the Bible, the Dar Salaam Bible, is it?
An excellent guess, Mrs. Lucas. Looks like it's going to be the main attraction for the museum auction after all.
Oh, come in, come in. Oh, I'm sure he'll want to see you now. Please sit down. I'll get him for you.
Mrs. Davidson.
Hello, Courtney. How are you?
Is that really the question that you want to ask, or did you just come here to tell me off about Peter?
No, actually, I'm here to see your uncle. I'm sure you've heard about the Bible being stolen.
The one to be auctioned off for the museum?
Yes. Well, we found it. It's right out there in the hallway.
Oh. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I assumed that you... Well, I figured you want me on the next stage out of town.
I understand the cattle baron's daughter has been ordered to stay away from the hired hand.
I hope you understand. I know Peter doesn't, and... Well, I don't want you to think that I just led him on for the fun of it.
I'm sure you didn't. The Courtney I saw with my son wasn't pretending either. I had the distinct feeling she really liked him.
She did. If only my circumstances didn't have to dictate my life.
Well, maybe they don't have to.
Mrs. Davidson, you don't know my half of the story. Why I've got to marry Vaughn.
Do you know why yourself, Courtney? Peter's told me that it's because of your family, your mother's illness.
Well, then you understand.
Well, I understand that when I was your age, my thinking was a lot like yours. One day I wanted to marry Peter's father, and the next I wasn't sure. My emotions were in a constant turmoil.
But if only my emotions were in charge. They're not. Mrs. Davidson, it's all settled. Vaughn and I will get married, and we'll get on with our lives.
And live happily ever after?
I plan on being the best wife that I can be, and a good mother to our children.
Those things go hand in hand, Courtney. But the best thing parents can do for their children is to love each other.
And that will come, in time.
I hope so, for you and the children's sake. Because kids have a way of detecting how much love's in a parent's relationship.
What is that I'm smelling there that's cooking? What is that?
Oh, you smell something?
Yeah, kind of a mint smell with some, you know, like a mint tea or something with something else smothered in with it. Like that dill mint tea that you usually make for your Aunt Loretta.
Jean, I was going to tell you, but...
She's on her way over? Tell me she's not coming over here, Carla.
Well, you know, we haven't seen her for a while.
Yes, and how pleasant our lives have been, too.
Well, she just wants to see how Alicia's grown, and she won't stay long, I promise.
The last time she was over here, she rearranged the furniture and threw out some of my magazines. Now, come on.
Oh, well, you know how she is. I mean, she just likes to put things in order. A little neatness, that's all.
Well, listen, baby, couldn't we do this? I mean, can we send her a snapshot of Alicia?
Oh, now she can't take a snapshot and hold it in her arms and rock it to sleep.
Well, I tell you what I'm doing. I'm gonna leave before our neat tornado gets here.
Oh, Gina, that's not fair. I mean, she's family. And where are you going anyway? You said that you didn't have to go into the Chronicle this morning.
Well, I don't, but I'm gonna see Terry Davidson for an interview before she leaves the carpenter's place.
Carpenter's place? What's she doing there?
Well, she's gonna give the Darceline Bible to him for safekeeping.
Since when does anyone give anything to Charles Carpenter for safekeeping? I mean, why don't you just hand it back over to Jeremy?
She and Dave don't know where Jeremy is. They said they've called his office and apartment several times and no one answers.
I tell you what. Now, why don't you bring her over here? You can interview Terry and she can meet with Aunt Loretta.
Bye.
Oh, I knew that you'd come. Courtney said you wanted to see me, Vaughn. Oh.
You don't quite understand. I'm not exactly who...
Oh, well, now that you're here, I want you to tell me all you've been up to, young man. Well, he can stay, can't he?
Oh, certainly you can.
See, it's okay.
In fact, I'll leave you two to yourselves right now, Vaughn.
Now, sit down and tell me all about you and Courtney. She tells me you gave her a lovely ring.
No, I didn't give her a ring. That was Vaughn. I'm not Vaughn.
You're not Vaughn?
That's what I've been
Courtney's
trying
Vaughn?
I've been trying to tell you.
Who are you, young man?
I'm sorry, it's okay.
How did you get in here?
It's okay. I'm Peter Davidson. I'm sure Courtney's told you about me.
Peter? It seems I once dated a young man named Peter. Such a lovely name.
Thanks.
Since you're a friend of Courtney's, you'll be at her wedding, I suppose.
I don't think so.
You know, she wants me to be at her wedding. It's taking a terrible risk, but Courtney's that kind that she insists
Mrs.
I should be...
Carpenter, I don't know how else to tell you this. If she marries Vaughn, she's going to be making the biggest mistake of her entire life. She doesn't love him.
Of course she loves him. Why on earth would she marry him if she didn't?
Mr. Carpenter would have my head if he knew I was here. I love Courtney.
You love... What? I don't understand.
Courtney's told me about her past. She told me that she used to come to you and tell you anything. You'd have the perfect answer for her.
Really? I don't know why I seem...
But now, she's afraid to come to you. She's afraid to come to you and tell you how she really feels about me. You know what I'm getting at? Mrs. Carpenter?
Vaughn, tell me more about the wedding. Have you and Courtney set the day yet?
It's just remarkable. Just remarkable. I wouldn't have thought that... Courtney, isn't this extraordinary?
Yes, it is, but I'm afraid I'm no appraiser of rare books, Uncle Charles. If you'll excuse me.
Oh, Courtney, I just want you to know I wish you the best.
Thank you, Mrs. Davidson. Means a lot to me.
Well, I am certainly not going to take any more chances with this. I'm going to make certain that it goes back to the museum under lock and key.
Dave would still like Jeremy to handle all of the transactions, Mr. Carpenter.
And risk having it stolen again? No, thank you. Jeremy had kept his head and had not taken this into Chesterfield, it wouldn't have been stolen in the first place.
Well, I'm only relaying the wishes of the owner of the Bible. By the way, you haven't seen Jeremy today, have you? We can't seem to contact him.
Mrs. Davidson, I have much better things to do than to keep tabs on a scatterbrained archaeologist. And what about the thieves? Were they caught?
No, they got away, but not before one of them shot Dave.
You know, I think that it might be a very good idea if I had some protection when I take this back to the museum.
Aren't you the least bit concerned about how he's doing, Mr. Carpenter? After all, he risked his life to get this Bible back.
And I am certainly not going to risk mine. Frankly, Mrs. Davidson, I'm a little surprised that you brought this over here without any protection yourself.
Oh, excuse me, Charles. I didn't know you were entertaining.
Well, I'm not really. I'm just working overtime for the museum. Preston, we got the Dar es Salaam Bible back.
Oh,
Preston? You're Preston Carpenter?
yes. Have we met before?
No. As a matter of fact, you haven't. Allow me to make the introductions. Preston, this is Terry Davidson, Peter Davidson's mother.
You're Peter Davidson's mother?
Yes.
All right, Charles, what's going on? Why did you bring Mrs. Davidson here?
Dropping by was her idea.
Now, wait just a minute. Let's get something straight here.
No, the only thing we have to get straight here is that your son has caused me a great deal of trouble. Now, if you don't mind, excuse me.
Preston, you've insulted Mrs. Davidson. You'll have to forgive him. He's just not quite himself.
Since when did you become so fond of the boy, Charles?
Mr. Carpenter, did you ever sit down and talk this out with Peter?
No, that would be a complete waste of time. He already knows exactly where I stand.
However, Mrs. Davidson, I did give Peter an opportunity to state his opinions.
Well, I don't interfere in my son's social life. And I do know that my son's feelings for your daughter are very sincere.
That very well may be, but she is not free to return them.
No, she isn't. And that's unfortunate because she's only repressing her feelings. I only want what's best for both of them.
Mrs. Davidson, I have been rude to you, and for that I apologize. I have been under a lot of pressure lately, and your son has been an integral part of that pressure. Now, in reality, as far as I can see, he has conducted himself as a gentleman, and for that I am thankful.
Oh, excuse me. Mr. Redlin insisted on seeing you, Mr. Carpenter.
Yes, Terry, Dave told me that you found the Dar es Salaam Bible.
Mm-hmm. It's right here. I've just turned it over to Mr. Carpenter.
Great. How did you do it? I mean, how did you get it back from the thieves?
I've told you before, Redlin, no interviews.
Well, you can just think of this as free publicity.
I don't need it.
For the auction, I mean.
We have an ad campaign to cover that. Mrs. Lucas, Mr. Redlin is leaving.
This way, please, Mr. Redlin.
I think I'll join you, Jean. I've been here long enough.
You can answer all of my questions. You know, I was talking to Dave earlier, and he was over the phone exactly what happened.
Well, Preston, I'm going to make sure that nothing happens to this.
Daddy! When did you get here?
Just a little while ago.
Did you, stop by Rose Hill?
Yes, I did. Your mother's condition is terrible. She's withdrawn so far. She has such little contact with reality anymore that I'm beginning to wonder if the expensive care she's getting at Rose Hill makes any difference to her.
Mrs. Carpenter, are you okay? Shall I call the nurse?
Huh? Oh, I'm fine. I want the wedding to be in the garden. You think Courtney will like that, Vaughn?
Mrs. Carpenter, please remember, I'm Peter Davidson.
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I'm a little tired. Perhaps you could come again another day and we could straighten this out. Courtney will understand, won't she?
Of course you'll understand. But do you understand? Do you understand that she's moved this thing up? She's going to get married sooner than she planned to.
My wedding gown may not fit her. We'll have to alter it.
Do you know why she's getting married sooner? Has anybody told this to you?
Told this what?
That she's doing it so you can stay here, so you can afford this place. I know that you love her, Mrs. Carpenter, but I don't think that you would sacrifice her happiness for this. Mrs. Carpenter. Guess not even you can stop her.
Oh, she fell asleep again, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
Frankly, I'm surprised she didn't do it sooner. She's on heavy medication. But I suppose the excitement of seeing her new son-in-law is what kept her going. When are you coming back again?
I don't know.
Oh, I forgot. She may not be here.
What?
I take it you already knew that Mr. Carpenter was considering sending her to another sanitarium. I'll really hate to see her go, but if it'll help cut down on expenses, I suppose I can't blame him.
Oh, did he actually tell you he's going to move her because of expenses?
Well, the decision's not final yet. You know, I used to see her name in the society pages all the time. All those parties and charity drives. She was once a very determined and strong woman. And she still is, underneath it all. Well, maybe we better go.
We go back to the clinic and take a hostage. It is as simple as that.
Marvelous, Samir. Another complication, exactly what we need.
How else do you suggest that we get the Bible back?
Well, certainly not by your terrorist methods. The last thing we need to do is to attract attention to ourselves.
Look, we've got to be less conspicuous. Have you forgotten that now we are wanted by the authorities?
Which could have been avoided if I had done the thinking in the first place.
And whose idea was it to leave both the princess and the Bible unguarded? Now you tell me that.
If you had not taken so long in eliminating Dr. Phillips, you could have stood at that post. After all, you are also hired for her protection.
Yes, so are we both. So like these Americans say, we are now in the same boat.
Enough. All the more reason why this bickering is totally unnecessary. They might have managed to get the Bible this time, but we have not given up.
Exactly, Your Highness. What I think we should do is to infiltrate, to become one of them.
Don't be stupid, Felix.
Temporarily, at least until we find out where the Bible is. I say we start at the museum.
So you think it is there?
Oh, yes, ever since Dr. Phillips is out of the way.
But we do not know if Phillips is really out of the way. That is why I say we go back to the clinic.
Only an idiot would take it back there. I say no, it will resurface at the museum auction.
What it was before we took it.
And suppose it is in a safety deposit box in one of their banks. Where does that leave us, Felix?
I have done bank jobs before, my friend.
That will not be necessary this time, Felix. If the Bible is at the auction, then we will infiltrate, as you say, Felix. We will bid on the Bible like everyone else until it is ours.
But you said you wanted the best for Mom, that she deserved it.
Yes, of course, but I'd like to know, how do you feel?
About keeping her in Rose Hill?
If you had the choice, Courtney, would you consider another sanatorium?
Oh, Dad, why are you asking me this? Why now?
A Davidson boy, his mother was just here.
And what does she have to do with it?
She, nothing, it's him. It occurred to me that while you were going with him, that he may have wondered why we picked such an expensive place as Rose Hill for your mother's care.
Since we obviously couldn't afford it.
Did he say anything?
Did he suggest that we live by our own means instead of by the Sumners? That's what you're asking me, isn't it?
Courtney, I know you think that I'm prying.
Yes. Because you've never been so curious about Peter's opinions before.
If it concerns you, Courtney, it concerns me. I want to make certain that what's left of my family are in complete agreement about your mother's care.
Look, Dad, I've agreed to marry Vaughn. Shouldn't that tell you how I feel?
If you say so right now, if you say, take my mother out of Rose Hill, I will do it.
The wedding date is set. You know that.
But things change, and I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Well, at least now you know that we're in complete agreement.
Well, it seems as if we are.
It is 1 o'clock, Yolanda. We should be leaving.
I suppose you're right, Samir. Just sitting around isn't getting us any closer to the Bible now, is it? And where is Felix?
Some place to be idle, no doubt. He will never understand the real worth of the Bible to us in our homeland.
He's not expected to, Samir. I only wish that my father had realized its value before he gave it away.
Good news. Our mystery is solved in the evening newspaper. Look at that.
What is it?
The Dar es Salaam Bible is now in the possession of a Mr. Charles Carpenter.
Yes, I see he's chairman of the committee.
And the Bible was brought right to his very doorstep. You see, Samir, I told you the Bible would come back around to the museum eventually.
Just where does this Charles Carpenter live? Perhaps we can walk in and take it again.
Perhaps. This article seems to have every detail that we need.
Samir seems to have a good idea this time, Princess. We can either wait around to bid on it or walk in and take it.
No. We will make no decision until we visit this Mr. Charles Carpenter. Hmm?